regarding the development of working hypotheses وبعد ما درنا ال extensive literature survey the researcher should state in clear terms the working hypothesis ولا hypotheses اللي عنده وهذا ال working hypotheses هما وشيوا هما a tentative assumption ولا assumptions okay احنا قلنا بلي ما عندناش research بلا questions why because we don't have a research like there is no research without a problem well, those questions are meant to look for the answers or I would say the solutions to that problem okay and so the researcher هنا حيكونوا عنده assumptions تاعو هو يعني هو وش يظن انه وش هو ال answers لهذوك ال questions okay سما assumptions هذو راهم made in order to draw out and test the logical or empirical consequences نتاع ال hypotheses هذوك هذا ما كان so the importance ولا the purpose ولا role نتاع ال hypotheses انهم first they guide the researcher by focusing on specific aspects لأنه راح تلقى ال hypothesis الوحدة راح تكون just an answer ولا I would say an assumption نتاع researcher regarding just one question you get me سما حيكونوا specific وحاجة واحدة أخرى إنه they help in determining the data type with data collection methods and techniques وال analysis methods as well سما basically هما اللي راحين يوريولك الطريق تاعك as a researcher وش راح يكون فيها يعني انت وش راح تدير في الريسيرش نتاعك وباش تلحق at the end تقول I affirm ولا I deny okay ما تقولش I باسكو هذه you know no subjectivity I'm just saying like at the end you will be either denying or affirming your hypotheses صح ال characteristics الحاجة الأولى قلنا must be specific ولازم تكون clearly defined مع الآخر راح نمد لكم واحد example هكذا تاع غلطات درناهم في ال research في ال dissertation تاعنا وكيفاش صححناهم من بعد when it comes to hypotheses حاجة ثانية applicable to the research problem at hand يعني ما تجيبليش hypothesis اللي ما عندها حتى علاقة بوش راك دير على الأول قلت لكم بلي the research problem احنا نبداو دايما من research problem هو الأول عندنا questions باش نلقاو solution وعندنا هذوك ال questions دوكا منهم اللي نجبدو hypotheses تاعنا اللي هما assumptions نتاع ال researcher وش يظن وش هما answers تاع هذوك ال questions alright local approach to developing or I would say approaches to developing hypotheses الحاجة الأولى discussions احنا هذه الحاجة ما درناهاش بزاف especially with experts okay so we were just both of us we were discussing me and my partner وعلى هذه طحنا في هذاك البروبلم اللي دوك نهدر لكم عليه so for you try to discuss try to engage with colleagues with experts for insights okay الحاجة الثانية data and records review like identify trends and peculiarities in existing data وهنا داخلة من جهة داخلة في literature survey okay حاجة ثانية study related research to find patterns و gaps ومن هي exploratory field investigation conduct limited field interviews for practical insights وهنا هذه الحاجة ترجع عليكم يعني ما نجيش نقول لك أنا دير هكذا ولا دير هكذا يعني بدأت أرجع على حسب ال hypotheses و assumptions اللي راهم عندك أنت alright okay now نجيو نشوفوا examples الغلطات اللي درناهم so that انتم تتفادوهم ونشوفوا كيفاش صححنا هذو الغلطات so we start with the must be revised version okay وبالذمة جبت لكم ال questions مع ال hypotheses because it's so important قلنا باللي من ال questions يعني ال hypotheses وال questions راهم basically interrelated يعني ال assumptions هذوك راح يكونوا answers لل questions اللي راهم عندنا alright So for us في ال dissertation تاعنا كانوا عندنا 3 questions و 3 hypotheses easy peasy now let's read the questions together the first question do the agrammatic representations or agrammatic representations of children with Down syndrome in other languages prevail in Arabic second question do the agrammatic representations of children with DS defy the core principles of universal grammar And the third question, is the anomaly in the genome responsible for language disorders in Down syndrome? Now, the mistake اللي احنا درناه is that we've directly stated yes or no, like we were just affirming the questions. We were like, the agrammatic representations of children with DS prevail in Arabic. The agrammatic representation of children with DS defy the core principles, and the anomaly in the genome is responsible. It was too brief. Like, this is not even an assumption. This is not even an assumption. This is a yes or no answer. And in the research, we are not looking for a yes or no answer. This says nothing. Literally, this does not guide the researchers' a path, towards really looking for the consequences of the assumptions. You see? So this was the problem that we faced. And for the ones فيكم اللي شافوا الفيديو تاع الفايفا, when I was presenting, I was like, and the hypotheses, like after stating the questions, of course, I was like, the hypotheses were accordingly formulated by affirming or by the affirmation, whatever, of the previously stated questions, and that is absolutely wrong. So I didn't even have to state the hypotheses because they didn't actually add anything new. So I was just simply affirming the questions. This is wrong, okay? Now let's take a look at how we corrected that, okay? The questions are the same, okay? And just from observing the two pictures, the second picture is actually longer than the first one, because here the hypotheses were super brief, they were not clear. Now here we have info, we have like working hypotheses, okay? So in here we have first, let's just take a look at the questions again. So, do the agrammatic representations of children with the prevail in Arabic? In the first one, we were like, oh yeah, they do prevail. You see? Hi, here, prevail. In here, look at the rich assumption. The complex morphosyntax and declinability of the Arabic language, encompassing conjugation patterns and case declensions, contribute to its exceptional effectiveness in projecting agrammatic representations of Down syndrome better than any other language. So in here, we stated exactly why we think that the Arabic language actually showcases the problem better than any other language in this regard. We stated that it has a complex morphosyntax and declinability, okay? We stated that it encompasses conjugation patterns and case declensions, etc., etc. Okay, so here, this is a rich assumption. This is an assumption that states why we, as researchers, assume that the Arabic language actually prevails, at showcasing certain agrammatic representations, better than any other language in this regard. Okay? Let's take a look at the second hypothesis. So the second question, always question hypothesis, okay? So, do the agrammatic representations of children with DS defy the core principles of universal grammar? In the previous must be revised version, we were like, yeah, defy the core principles of universal grammar, and that's it. Here we are actually providing a clear and well-formulated hypothesis. So we were like, the agrammatic representations of children with DS defy specific core principles of universal grammar. We stopped here in the previous one, right? Now here we are proceeding to state why we think so. So particularly those related to syntactic structures and language acquisition processes. You see this particularly this is here clarifying the hypothesis. You see? We've stated previously that the hypothesis must be what? Must be specific and clearly defined. So here we are clarifying, we are adding to the clarity of the hypothesis. Okay? And so this hypothesis is based on the observation that children with DS exhibit significant difficulties in acquiring and producing grammatically structured language, suggesting a deviation from the innate language acquisition abilities proposed by universal grammar. Okay? As for the third one, which is so important, so let's go back again to the question. So the question was, is the anomaly in the genome responsible for language disorders in DS, right? And the previous must be revised version, we were just like, yeah, it is responsible. And we stopped there. This is wrong. Now let's take a look at how we corrected that. So we were like, the genetic anomaly in individuals with DS is responsible for language disorders. In the previous one, we stopped here, okay? Now look at what we've added. We were like aligning with Gopnik's claim that impaired grammar construction results from genetic disorders. Okay? Now this Gopnik, this is a reference. This is so important, guys. We've already stated here in approaches, where is it? We said data and records review and literature review, because you can integrate that in the hypotheses. And so in here, referring to Gopnik's claim about genetic disorders and grammar construction, etc., gives the hypothesis a solid foundation. So it shows that the hypothesis is not an isolated assumption. We're not just thinking like just alone, but it is actually based on prior findings in the field, okay? And so this lends credibility and frames the work within the broader academic discourse, okay? So this supports the notion that the language system is encoded in the genome rather than solely localized in the brain, as the genome influences brain development and function. And then we mentioned why Adamson, Schwendman, okay, Gucha, Friedrichi, I don't know, all these names, study revealed robust interhemispheric connectivity in Arabic-speaking participants, providing additional support for the relationship between genetic factors and language abilities, okay? Again here, by mentioning the recent study, okay, this adds an element of contemporary relevance to the hypothesis. And so here we are doing what? By aligning the hypothesis with the latest research, we are showing that the topic is actively being investigated. This is so important, and that the hypothesis is timely and built on cutting-edge findings. Okay? And again, here we've mentioned a neurological part where we stated, where is it? The interhemispheric connectivity in Arabic-speaking participants, right? And so in here we are doing what? We are strengthening the biological basis. So the reference to interhemispheric connectivity, etc., helps to clarify the genetic and neurological mechanisms that we were hypothesizing, okay? So this makes the hypothesis more precise, shows a clear pathway for testing, okay? For testing, especially with current neurological tools and methods, etc. And of course, it does enhance argumentation, because including references strengthens the argument that language abilities are not solely located in the brain but have a genetic foundation. This is a very well established hypothesis, a very well formulated hypothesis. Okay? But again, just for caution, be sure to maintain balance when using references and hypotheses. So while references, they do add depth, as we've stated, ensure that the hypothesis remains focused on whatever you aim to test, etc. Do not make it look like you are just you are just on proving others' claims, because at the end of the day, this is your assumption. We are supporting our assumption بحاجة اللي تكون اندارت من قبل. Okay? Make sure also your wording does not over-rely on previous studies, because the hypothesis should still stand independently. يعني قلت لك, it's just to support your claim ولا your assumption. Okay, so it's just for supporting. هذا مكان ما تكونش هي المين بوينت. كاين بزاف اللي يغلطوا يروحوا يجيبوا لك references وشغل يولي الكليم تاع researcher اللي دار هذيك previous study ولا هذاك هو الكليم تاع hypothesis. No, سما هنا I am supporting my assumption بوش قالوا هذا researchers in an indirect way. So I'm not making it the focal point for the whole assumption. Okay, so this is so important. I hope these tips and pieces of advice are going to help you in formulating your own hypotheses. And this is it for today. Thank you.